Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot for April 17th. So, for those of you who follow me sort of as my videos get released, you'll know that this week has sort of been a week not so much about what's going on like right now currently, as much as sort of some broad sweeps, things that I wanted to look at. And this just seemed like a good time to do it, to just, change the subject a wee little bit. So there was, of course, the one on Biden, and there was the one on Jared and Ivanka, and there was the one on Mitch and Mike and Bill. So if you have missed some of those or you're not getting notifications, please double check to make sure that your little bell beside the word subscribed is tapped so that you will get notifications when they come out. And while I'm just on the topic, thank you so very, very much. You guys are absolutely amazing. Your generosity of kind words and support is just so heartwarming. I have received some really lovely, lovely donations from people. They are always received sort of with surprise and a great deal of humble gratitude. So I thank you for those. While I'm on the topic, if anybody's looking for a personal reading, the information is in that box below. So thank you for the thumbs up, the comments, the subscribes, the views. They're fabulous, and I just really, really appreciate them. So anyway, so this has kind of been the week where I've just sort of been looking at things other than the current situation, for the most part. And so I've been saying that, nope, Trump's not going to win the presidency, and there's something going on in July, and I can't quite get a feel for it, and what's happening with those GOP people, and are they really going to get annihilated in the next election, and what does that look like? And so I decided that for the final reading of this week, I was going to take a look at kind of the current and future kind of state of both Trump and by extension the GOP. So that's my question for those of you, again, who view me regularly. I have my massive piece of smoky quartz here sitting here protecting me and sort of removing some of those more negative energies. Hold on, now I can't get this thing sitting properly. So you're going to see that at the very edge of your screen. So come on down because I have a question. There we go. I've got it sitting on my little cloth thing here because I don't want it scratching stuff. Okay, so let us take a look at Donald Trump, by extension the GOP, and what their present and future looks like. Here we go. Present, future, Trump, GOP. Present, future, Trump, GOP. Present, future, Trump, GOP. I'm just going to shift you back a little bit so I've got a bit more room here. Get this out of the way a little bit. Okay, so they are just charging forward. Trump is so out of control right now. He is so scared and so angry and so wrapped up in himself, his money, his assets, how he looks, how people think of him, what people think of him, that he is just going to continue this reckless rush forward. And frankly, nobody really is going to be able to stop him. He wants to be king. He believes he should be king. And anything that causes questions or creates doubt in his mind about that happening literally just sends him into an absolute fury. Just a fury. And that is a lot of what you saw this week and a lot of his behavior. As soon as he starts getting questioned and he's not allowed to sort of get away with that rambling first answer, and somebody really pushes and says, you know what, no, I don't care what you did in February. I want to know what you did in March and April. He just loses it. And in some ways, it's starting to feel like the situation has become so serious and frankly so dangerous that reporters have really gotten their spine up and they're not settling. It's almost as if, I want to say, it kind of almost feels like a tag team of questions that you're going to start seeing if those ridiculous 2-hour long press conferences, substitute the word rally, continue, because the media types don't really like being used and abused that way, and you're going to see some real significant pushback, and it very much feels like they're actually going to start, like I said, coming together and sort of pushing the same narrative by with different questions by groups. Now, some of those groups are going to be, not everyone's going to be involved, but there's definitely going to be that sense of, you know what, it's really time to get some real answers out of this guy, because the ones he's giving are garbage. But his thing, right, is about the whole, I need to be best. I can't be questioned. We are the royal family. There's going to be a little bit of more of that nonsense coming out too. And again, you're going to see Jared and Ivanka, sort of getting these positions that don't make any sense, and they certainly don't have the brains or the experience to handle them. But again, it is that the more he is threatened, the more entrenched he is going to become with regards to his royalty, his right to rule, his abilities. It's just going to start, if it hasn't already, if it doesn't feel already that way, it really is going to start to feel like we're entering Twilight Zone time, okay? I don't exactly know what we then qualify the last 3 or 4 years as, but here we go. So that's kind of where he is going to sit right now. So, and kind of the energies that swirl around him. So what I want to know now is, what do the next couple of months look like? So we're middle of April. So what are we looking at by time we get to mid-June? The end of June. What's that looking like? Okay, so by that point, now, according to the energies that I can figure out, it feels like during the summer months, sort of kind of middle of June, May, June, July, August, I think things are going to stop being quite so scary. I think that a lot of the numbers are going to flatten out. You're going to see, good recovery, that kind of thing. But don't forget that a lot of us, not only readers, but frankly, a lot of the medical experts are saying that they really are anticipating sort of a resurgence of this in the cold months. So a couple months from now, you're going to see that he is going to have been so battered and so bruised that even the slightly improved conditions are really not going to be enough to scrape away the dirt and the mud from his persona. Okay, he's not going to be able to jump into some shower of the economy or the stock market to purify and wash away the insanity of what we're now experiencing. So he's going to be continue to come under more and more pushback. And by extension, so is the GOP, because honestly, by time we get to June, there's going to be some real clarity about exactly how badly this was handled, about really what the numbers actually are. And that's the thing, right now, the numbers that are being reported are not accurate, because there's these huge sections where they're not actually counting them as corona deaths, and all those people running around who are sick who haven't been tested. And the latest numbers I saw was somewhere between 50 and 80% of the people wandering around with coronavirus have very few or no symptoms. And this is the thing, right? If you look at the symptoms, right, it's like, well, a runny nose, or maybe an upset stomach, or maybe you're nauseous, or maybe you have a fever or a cough. Well, come on, put your hand up, honestly, if you haven't had at least one of those symptoms since January. Do you have the virus? Did you have the virus? I don't know. Nobody knows right now. But by time it gets closer to the summer, we're going to start finding out with a lot more clarity what the numbers actually are, because there's going to be a real push that you can't just reopen everything with bells and whistles until you get a better handle on exactly what this thing actually looks like. And so the information coming out is just not going to be good. And he's really going to be trying to work deals behind the scenes, and he's going to start really seriously thinking about running away. So it does not appear that the dream he had, the belief he had in himself and his strong man tactics, his thinking about people's perceptions and how he could just bamboozle them with words. He's going to end up really brokenhearted about that, because there is going to be a realization that at some point he needs to stop living in the past. And make no mistake, by time the summer comes around, by time we're sort of in the dog days of summer, whenever those are, you're going to see his medical, emotional conditions continuing to really, really deteriorate. So some of the crazy that we saw this week with his behavior and his lashing out and his just, fighting and pushing back because people are daring to question him, I have a feeling that by time we're in the summer months, this week is going to look like calm. Okay. So again, I keep saying this, but that is going to continue to ratchet up and ratchet up. And at some point, it would not surprise me if he did not experience some sort of, and I don't use this in a medical terminology, I use this sort of as a layman's understanding, but literally sort of some kind of an almost like psychotic break where there is such a detachment from reality that he's not in this world anymore. And again, he's just going to keep pushing back and keep pushing back. But while he's doing that on the outside, he's trying to figure out overseas deals, or he's trying to figure out a way to launch him in a direction that is safer for him. So don't be surprised if there are rumors or talks about, him needing to leave the country. Is it possible that he's going to leave and not come back? Yeah, it actually could happen. Is it possible that he's just going to become so mentally detached that they sort of finally invoke that Article 25? Is it possible that they just, shuffle him to a back room and other people take more prominent roles and they don't really explain what's going on with Trump? I guess all of those are options right now. But there very much is that sense that he's not going to be playing such an active role as we move forward. It's somewhere sort of between now and September, if he hasn't left the country by then, or if he hasn't been removed from office, he's going to have real clear awareness of the fact that he is going down, and he is going down massively. So, where does that leave the GOP? Well, it doesn't leave them in such a good place, because the time to abandon the sinking ship was a while ago. And they didn't do that. And because they didn't do that, well, now they're forever attached to him and forever connected to him. And if Trump is not going to be the only one who hard questions are going to be asked and answers are going to be demanded, because especially in those Republican states where they're being fed so much misinformation, at some point, even with the numbers being skewed, the numbers are going to be bad. And so those governors and those senators there are going to be answers demanded from them, from the Republican House of Representative people. There's going to be questions asked they're not going to have answers to, and you're going to see real significant breaks and cracking going on within the party. There's going to be some attempt to sort of shore it all up and kind of make it, not seem so bad. But it's almost like without the floor show of Trump, they're sort of set adrift and they can't anchor themselves. And so it looks like some of those people are actually going to be experiencing some very, very difficult times. Yeah. So this is the thing. And it may be cold comfort right now, but it's going to be comforting a little ways down the road. Understand that those people who abused and maligned the rules, who were corrupt, who ignored the law, those people who shunned what this represents, the judgment is going to be harsh, it's going to be severe, and frankly, it's going to last a long time. And ultimately, they're gone. They are simply gone. Whether they retreat, whether they're kicked out of office, their numbers, this is representing the GOP, are going to diminish, and a lot of them are not going to survive. And the thing is not only are they not going to survive, but the judgment will continue. So what does that mean? Well, that means that things that were hidden are exposed and their anxiety ratchets up. So even as we go along and it feels as if some of these people are getting away with stuff or they're never going to be held to account, trust me, it's coming. It's coming for them. So even after they've left office, do not be surprised if there are not investigations, lawsuits. There's going to be a lot of stuff that goes on. They're going to be held to account in varying degrees for their corruption and, frankly, for the role that they played in shouldering or buffeting or surrounding Trump. and I mean, come on, let's face it, for most of these people, it is for their own political benefit, okay? They're not doing this because they like the guy. They know he's a nut. They know he's like a barking moron. I think that's going to be my new phrase for Trump. But they weighed that against, well, how much can I get for me, right? What does this do for me? And if you're part of the Republican Party, well, what it meant was either you get on board or you die. And so they all got on board. And guess what? That death, well, wow, that's inevitable. They're not going to be able to put it back together. It doesn't matter how they spin it. It doesn't matter how much work they do. It doesn't matter. It's coming down. So not only it doesn't look like Trump is going to be in for a really, really rough road ahead, but it definitely looks like the GOP are really, really going to be crippled by their own behavior. They're going to be called to account. And I don't think that they're going to really like the accounting process. And again, the reading I did yesterday on the presidency of Joe Biden, I did say that this card is looking like it is going to be Joe's card, okay? And I also said that the Queen of Swords looks like it's going to start to represent the vice president's card. So you got that energy sitting on top of this going, you know what? You're not going to get away with it. And you know what? I got a lot of really good, strong people behind me because I built a really strong, smart coalition of people. Trust me, there's going to be enough to go after you guys. And go after them, he will. Some of them are going to try to escape. Some are going to get, away more easily than others. But frankly, nobody walks away clean. That, unfortunately, is just the reality here. Nobody walks away from this clean. The mud just splatters, and everybody ends up getting coated in it. And so, yeah, they're not gonna be in good shape. Frankly, it's not gonna be good. It's just not gonna be good. So, I guess in some ways we can consider that, some interesting news and some insight. So, again, I don't know that I got a great deal more clarity on exactly what is going to happen with Trump. I mean, we know that the Mitch McConnells and the Lindsey Grahams of the world, they're going to have, I want to say difficult, but impossible re-election chances. That's not going to go well for them. Because again, don't forget, by time you guys are getting ready to go vote, this thing is going to it's going to come back around. Earlier this week, Japan announced that they now are experiencing the second wave of the virus in their country. And it may well be that the second wave of the virus, sort of in this part of the world, hits, late September, October, November. So there's going to be a summer of really hard questions, and then there's going to be a resurgence of this thing. One more quick question. Is Trump still in office in November? Office in November, office in November. Let's see if we can get some clarity. And I do know that there are some readers out there who are saying that they see Nancy Pelosi stepping in. Energetically, that's just not something I have received yet. That doesn't mean I'm wrong, they're right, I'm right, they're wrong. It just means I haven't stepped into that energy or felt that around her yet. But let's see if there's a better chance that Trump is in office or out of office come the actual election. I'm going with no. Okay, again, I don't know what's going to take him out. I really don't. But there is going to be a great deal of speed that comes along with decisions that are being made that really, really, when the assessment on what he has done and how he has conducted himself, he gets the Ten of Swords. So again, I don't have any brilliant answers on what that's going to look like, but more and more, it really does energetically feel as if he may not be in office by the time fall rolls around. Now, I'm not sure what would or wouldn't take out Pence. And if Pence was taken out for any reason, then Nancy Pelosi absolutely would step into that, the presidency. And maybe in a few weeks, I'll take a deeper look at that and see if I can get some clarity on that. A lot of the stuff that I'm reading on, that readers are reading on and looking at, it is in such a crazy state of flux that I really think that what we're getting, the information we're getting, is sort of most likely case scenarios, right? And some of it, in some ways, is almost destined. And so those can feel pretty solid. But I think sort of when it comes down to actual numbers, when it comes down to sort of drill down specifics, it's really, for me anyways, quite difficult to latch onto it because, what it felt like last Tuesday is not what it's going to feel like next Tuesday, okay? But we're all doing the best we can. And hopefully, that is encouraging for you. Hopefully, that gives you something to look forward to. You know what? It's really hard these days to sort of not get down, not get a little depressed, not feel that this is hopeless, and even not feel like, all the political parties on all levels have sort of failed the people. And, in some ways, that's not really wrong. But there needs to be some real clarity about the fact that this is what it looks like when you have an incredibly stupid, I'm sorry, I was trying to come up with something better, but stupid word. It's the word stupid man in the presidency who thinks he's smart and isn't, who doesn't understand basics to save his soul, and thinks that he has the most brilliant gut in the world. Maybe that's why it's so big. I don't know. I'm just saying he shouldn't be trusting his gut because honestly, if you look at the trajectory of his life, backwards and forwards, that gut has not really served him all that well. What it has done, however, is taught him how to push back against the weak, and it certainly has taught him that corruption is a game that he likes to play and can win. And he hooked up with a whole bunch of GOP people who kind of really are into the whole corruption deal, who really are all about lining their pockets, who really, really are. It's not about conservative values. See, this is the thing you got to realize and remember about the GOP. It's not that they actually care about abortion. It's not that they actually care about the budget. What it is a mentality where they want to keep everyone in the dark. They want everyone to be uneducated. They want everyone, frankly, to be unhealthy so they don't stick around and drain the coffers. They want people to not question them because then they can be very busy behind the scenes doing whatever it is they're doing. And as long as they keep sending the message that we care, people buy into it. So that's what happens when you get, and don't forget, when Trump ascended to the role of presidency, unfortunately, there was a Republican House and Senate. So he stepped in to the perfect environment. And the Democrats had to work really, really hard to at least take back the House so they had some control. So a lot of times the frustration and the anger is, they didn't do enough or they didn't do it fast enough. You have to understand what it feels like to be functioning with your hands tied behind your back to start with. More importantly, the Republican people had so bamboozled people who believed in them, who thought they were telling the truth, who really believed that it would be okay if they personally made sacrifices to their lifestyle, to their health, to their security, because it was for the greater good. So it was like the perfect storm in some ways. And, what do perfect storms teach us? A lot, right? They teach us a lot about handing over our power. They teach us a lot about what happens when things are really, really out of balance. And they teach us that with every storm, somewhere following that, the seas get calm and the sun comes out. And that's what we're moving towards. But it doesn't happen fast. So don't give up and don't get discouraged and hang in there, because you know what? It's important to see things with clear eyes. It really is. I mean, you have to look at the situation and go, yep, this is our current reality. But you always, always want to leave room for the dessert, right? You want to leave room for the hope and the happiness and the reassurance that things can not go back to the way they were, but they can achieve a new normal that within itself brings blessings. So do the very best you can to stay positive. Don't ignore your feelings. Feel them, but let them go. And know that there are more people working in the light than you realize. And that light is really strong and really powerful. And it gets stronger and more powerful every single day as every one of us do not embrace the dark, as every one of us don't get trapped in the lower vibrational energy, whether that is worry or fear or any of the other spectrum of emotions, okay? Hang in there. We're going to get through this. And certainly in the Northern Hemisphere, spring is tap dancing its way in, and that leaves for more sunlight. It leads for birds to sing their songs and trees and flowers to blossom. And I think for the most part, that is also a really good and optimistic sign that no matter how crazy things get, no matter how destroyed they feel, there is always, always a rebirth. Take care. Be well. Stay safe.